Chapter 1. The Omega. 17 years. That's how long Isla had served the Crimson Moon Pack as their Omega. 17 years of cooking meals she'd never eat at the main table, cleaning rooms she'd never sleep in, and bowing her head to wolves who'd never see her as anything more than a servant. She didn't remember her life before. The pack elders said she'd been found as a child, wandering the borders, half-starved and traumatized. They'd taken her in out of kindness. Though Isla had learned quickly that kindness always came with a price. That price was her freedom. "Isla, where's my breakfast?" Luna Catherine's shrill voice cut through the kitchen like a blade. "Coming, Luna." Isla called back, hurriedly plating the omelet she'd prepared exactly to Catherine's specifications. 3 egg whites, no yolk, vegetables on the side, toast dry with butter served separately. She carried the tray to the dining room where Luna Catherine sat with her daughter, Vivian, and several high-ranking she-wolves. They didn't acknowledge Isla's presence as she set down the tray, didn't say thank you. They never did. "This toast is too dark," Catherine said without looking at it. "I'll make another, Luna. See that you do. And when you're finished, the guest rooms need to be prepared. We have visitors arriving today." Isla's stomach clenched. Visitors meant more work, higher expectations, and usually more abuse. When pack guests arrived, the Omegas were expected to be invisible, silent shadows serving without being seen. "Yes, Luna. May I ask how many guests?" "The Northern Ridge Pack. Alpha Kieran is bringing his beta and third, plus a few warriors. They're here to discuss a territorial dispute." Catherine waved her hand dismissively. "Make sure everything is perfect. Alpha Kieran has a reputation for high standards." After remaking the toast and enduring Catherine's complaints about its temperature, Isla spent the next 6 hours preparing the guest wing. Fresh linens, flowers in every room, bathrooms scrubbed until they gleamed. Her hands were raw from cleaning solution, her back ached from bending, but she didn't stop. Omegas who stopped working found themselves without dinner. Or worse. "Hey, Omega." Isla turned to find Marcus, the pack's head warrior, leering at her from the hallway. She immediately lowered her gaze. "Yes, sir. I need my uniform pressed before the visitors arrive. And make sure you get the wrinkles out this time, or I'll make sure Alpha Gerald knows about your incompetence." "Of course, sir." Marcus tossed his uniform at her feet, forcing her to bend down to pick it up. His friends laughed. This was entertainment for them, humiliating the Omega. Isla had learned long ago not to react. Show emotion, and they'd push harder. Cry, and they'd call her weak. Fight back, and they'd remind her that Omegas had no rights, no voice, no value beyond their service. So she picked up the uniform, murmured her thanks, and hurried to the laundry room. The other Omega, an elderly wolf named Thomas, looked up as she entered. "Guess today, Northern Ridge Pack. Their Alpha is coming." Thomas's eyes widened. "Kieran Steele? I've heard of him. They say he's one of the most powerful alphas in the Northern Territories. Strong, fair, but merciless to those who cross him." "Then we'd better make sure everything is perfect," Isla said, starting the iron. "Child, you've been serving this pack since you were 8 years old. When are you going to demand better treatment?" "Omegas don't make demands, Thomas. You know that. Omegas and other packs have rights. Protection. This pack treats us like slaves. This pack gave me a home when I had none." "A home?" Thomas's voice was bitter. "You sleep in a basement room barely fit for storage. You eat scraps. They work you until you collapse. That's not a home, Isla. That's a prison." Isla didn't argue. Deep down, she knew he was right. But what choice did she have? Leaving meant becoming a rogue, and rogues were hunted, killed, or worse. At least here, she had shelter and food, even if both were meager. At least here, she was alive. The visiting pack arrived at sunset. Isla watched from the kitchen window as a convoy of black SUVs pulled up to the pack house. Warriors emerged first, scanning the area with trained efficiency. Then the beta and third, both powerful-looking wolves who moved with predatory grace. And finally, the Alpha. Kieran Steele stepped out of the lead vehicle, and Isla's breath caught. He was tall, easily 6'4", with broad shoulders and a presence that commanded attention without effort. Dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore all black, and power radiated from him like heat from a flame. Alpha Gerald rushed out to greet him, all false smiles and political niceties. Isla turned away, focusing on the dinner preparations. She had 20 wolves to feed, and every dish had to be perfect. For the next 2 hours, she cooked while Thomas managed the table settings. Roasted meats, fresh vegetables, homemade bread, and desserts that would make any wolf's mouth water. Food she'd prepared 1,000 times but never tasted. Isla, they're ready to eat. Thomas appeared in the doorway. Start bringing out the courses. And remember, eyes down, mouth shut, invisible, Isla recited. She'd heard it 1,000 times. She loaded the first cart with appetizers and pushed it toward the dining room. The moment she entered, the noise level dropped slightly. Visiting wolves always noticed the Omegas first, curious about how other packs treated their lowest-ranking members. Isla kept her eyes down as she'd been taught, carefully placing plates in front of each guest. She could feel their stares, their assessment. But she focused on her task, moving with practiced efficiency. She was placing a plate in front of the Northern Ridge Beta when it happened. A scent hit her like a physical force. Pine and winter frost, with an underlying note of something wild and intoxicating. It called to every cell in her body, making her wolf. Which had been dormant for so long she'd almost forgotten it existed, suddenly surged to life. Mate, her wolf whispered. Mate. Isla's hands trembled. The plate rattled against the table. Careful, Omega, the beta said, not unkindly. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and quickly moved to the next seat. But the scent was stronger now, overwhelming her senses. Her heart raced, her skin felt too tight, and her wolf was going crazy, demanding she find the source of that intoxicating smell. Then she reached Alpha Kieran's seat. Their eyes met for just a fraction of a second. Her training couldn't quite suppress her need to look at him, and the world stopped. His eyes were silver, like moonlight on water, and they were staring at her with an intensity that made her knees weak. His entire body had gone rigid, his hands gripping the arms of his chair so hard she heard the wood crack. What, he said, his voice dangerously soft, is your name? Isla's mouth went dry. Alphas didn't ask Omegas their names. They barely acknowledged their existence. Answer the Alpha, Gerald barked from the head of the table. Isla, Alpha, she whispered. Kieran stood slowly, and the movement had every wolf in the room tensing. His eyes never left her face, and that incredible scent was coming from him, she realized. He was the source. He was. Mate, Kieran said, and the single word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. The room erupted. That's impossible, Catherine shrieked. She's an Omega. A servant. She can't be anyone's mate, Gerald sputtered. She's barely even a wolf. But Kieran wasn't listening to them. He moved around the table with predatory grace, stopping directly in front of Isla. She trembled, not from fear but from the overwhelming intensity of the mate bond snapping into place. Look at me, he commanded gently. She obeyed, lifting her eyes to meet his. The moment their gazes locked, something clicked. Something fundamental and unbreakable. The mate bond blazed to life between them, golden and brilliant and absolutely certain. Mine, Kieran growled, and his wolf was in his voice. My mate. Alpha Kieran, there must be some mistake, Gerald started. There's no mistake. Kieran's hand cupped Isla's cheek, and she leaned into the touch instinctively, her wolf purring with satisfaction. I know my mate when I smell her. When I see her. When the moon goddess herself puts her in front of me. But she's an Omega, Vivian protested. You're one of the most powerful alphas in the north. You can't mate an Omega. I can and I will. Kieran's eyes finally left Isla's face to scan the room, and what they saw there made his expression harden. In fact, I think we need to have a serious conversation about how this pack treats its Omegas. His gaze landed on Isla's hands, red and raw from chemicals. Then on the fading bruises on her arms that she'd tried to cover. On her too thin frame, her worn clothing, the exhaustion in her eyes. "How long have you been with this pack?" he asked Isla softly. 17 years, Alpha. 17 years, he repeated, his voice like ice. "And in those 17 years, how have you been treated?" Isla didn't know how to answer. The truth would condemn the Crimson Moon Pack. But lying to her mate felt impossible. "I serve the pack," she said carefully. "As Omegas do." "That's not what I asked." Kieran's thumb traced her cheekbone gently. "Tell me the truth, Isla. Have they hurt you?" Tears pricked her eyes. No one had ever asked her that. No one had ever cared. "They've given me shelter," she whispered. "Food. Purpose." That's not an answer. The room held its collective breath as Isla struggled with the question. Finally, she gave the only answer she could, the truth. "Sometimes serving is painful," she said quietly. "But Omegas endure." Kieran's jaw clenched, a muscle ticking in his cheek. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. "Show me where you sleep." "Alpha Kieran, really, this is unnecessary," Gerald tried to intervene. "I said, show me." It wasn't a request. Isla led him through the packhouse, away from the grand rooms and elegant spaces, down the back stairs to the basement level where the Omegas lived. Her room was at the end of a dingy hallway, a space barely 8 by 10 feet with a narrow cot, a single shelf for her meager possessions, and no window. Kieran stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to Gerald, who had followed them along with several other pack members. "This is where you house pack members?" His voice was soft, dangerous. "She's an Omega. She's a wolf. A member of your pack. Under your protection and care." Kieran stepped closer to Gerald, and the Crimson Moon Alpha actually backed up. "And this is how you've treated her? Like a slave? Like something less than wolf? We've provided for her. You've abused her." Kieran's eyes flashed silver. "I can smell the fear on her, see the marks on her body. This isn't service. This is cruelty. You have no right to come into my pack and make accusations." "I have every right. She's my mate." Kieran turned back to Isla, his expression softening. "Pack your things. You're coming with me." Isla's heart stopped. "What?" "You're my mate. That means you belong with me, in my pack, where you'll be protected and cherished as you deserve." "You can't just take her," Catherine shrieked. "She's our Omega. We need her." "Then you should have treated her better." Kieran's voice was final. "Isla is coming with me to Northern Ridge. As my mate, she'll be the Luna of my pack. And if anyone here has a problem with that, they can take it up with me." The challenge hung in the air. No one moved. No one dared. Kieran looked at Isla expectantly. "Pack your things, love. We're leaving tonight." Isla looked around the tiny room that had been her entire world for 17 years. At the few possessions she owned, some clothes, a worn book, a smooth stone she'd found by the river that she'd kept because it was beautiful and no one else wanted it. Her entire life fit in a single bag. "I'm ready," she whispered. As they walked back upstairs, every member of the Crimson Moon Pack watched in stunned silence. The visiting Northern Ridge wolves looked both pleased and unsurprised. Apparently, their alpha acting on behalf of a mistreated Omega was completely in character. At the door, Kieran paused. "Alpha Gerald, Luna Catherine, we will reschedule our territorial discussions. But I want it noted that the Northern Ridge Pack does not ally with those who abuse their members. Your treatment of your Omegas is shameful, and until that changes, consider any potential alliance off the table." "You're making a mistake," Gerald growled. "She's nothing. Worthless." Kieran moved so fast Isla barely saw it. One moment he was beside her, the next he had Gerald pinned against the wall, his hand around the other alpha's throat. "That's my mate you're talking about," he said softly. "My Luna. And if you ever speak about her that way again, territorial disputes will be the least of your concerns. Do we understand each other?" Gerald could barely nod. Kieran released him and returned to Isla's side, his hand finding hers and squeezing gently. "Ready?" She looked back at the pack that had been her prison for 17 years. At the wolves who'd used her, hurt her, made her believe she was worthless. Then she looked at the alpha beside her, her mate. chosen by the moon goddess herself, and saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Respect. Protection. The promise of something better. "I'm ready," she said, and this time her voice was stronger. As they walked out of the Crimson Moon pack house, Isla didn't look back. Chapter 2. Northern Ridge. The drive to Northern Ridge territory took 4 hours. Isla sat in the back of Kieran's SUV, acutely aware of his presence in the front passenger seat. His beta, Connor, drove while his third, a fierce-looking she-wolf named Sage, sat beside Isla. "You okay?" Sage asked softly. Isla nodded, not trusting her voice. She wasn't okay. She was overwhelmed, terrified, and still processing the fact that she had a mate. That an Alpha, one of the most powerful in the north, had claimed her. "Kieran," Connor said, "we should probably prepare Isla for what's coming. The pack will be surprised." "Surprised is putting it mildly," Sage added. "No offense, Isla, but you're not exactly the Luna they were expecting." "Sage," Kieran's voice held a warning. "I'm not being cruel, I'm being honest. The pack knows you've been looking for your mate. They've probably imagined some powerful warrior she-wolf or the daughter of an allied Alpha. And Omega is going to shock them. Then they'll adapt," Kieran said firmly. "Isla is my mate. The moon goddess chose her for me. That's all that matters." But Isla could hear the concern underlying his certainty. He was worried about how his pack would react. "I don't have to be Luna," Isla said quietly. "I could just be there. In the background. I'm used to that." The car swerved slightly as Connor reacted to her words. Kieran turned in his seat to look at her, his expression intense. "No," he said flatly. "You are my mate. That makes you Luna, regardless of your rank or history. You will not hide in the background. You will not diminish yourself. Do you understand?" Isla stared at him. "But I'm an Omega. I don't know how to be a Luna. You'll learn. I'll teach you. The pack will support you." His eyes softened. "Isla, I know this is overwhelming. I know you've been taught to see yourself as lesser. But you're not. You're my mate, my equal, my partner. And I need you to start believing that." Tears burned in Isla's eyes. "I don't know how. Then we'll figure it out together." They arrived at Northern Ridge territory just after midnight. The pack house was enormous, a sprawling modern structure built into the mountainside with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a valley below. Lights blazed from multiple buildings, and even at this late hour, wolves moved about with purpose. "Welcome home," Kieran said, helping Isla out of the vehicle. Home. The word felt foreign. Dangerous. Like something that could be taken away. A crowd had gathered. Word of their Alpha's mate must have spread quickly. Isla felt their stares, their shock, their confusion. She instinctively moved closer to Kieran, and his arm immediately wrapped around her waist, pulling her against his side. "Everyone," his voice carried across the courtyard, commanding instant silence. "This is Isla. She's my mate. You're Luna." The silence stretched. Then a young wolf in the crowd spoke up. "But Alpha, she smells like Omega." "She is Omega," Kieran said calmly. "And she's my mate. Those two facts are not contradictory. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes." "But how can an Omega be Luna?" someone else asked. "The same way any wolf becomes Luna, by being chosen by the Alpha. Isla is my mate, blessed by the goddess herself. Her rank doesn't change that. Nothing changes that." His eyes swept the crowd, and Isla felt his Alpha power rolling over them all. "I expect her to be treated with the respect due to a Luna. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly." The challenge was clear. No one moved to accept it. "Connor, show our Luna to the Alpha suite." "Sage, spread the word. There will be a pack meeting tomorrow evening. Everyone attends." Kieran looked down at Isla. "Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning." "You're not coming?" The words slipped out before Isla could stop them. Something heated flashed in Kieran's eyes. "I want to. Goddess knows I want to. But you've had a traumatic day, and we've just met. I won't push you into anything you're not ready for." "I'm your mate," Isla said softly. "Yes. And that means I protect you, cherish you, and give you time to adjust. Not claim you the moment we arrive." His thumb brushed her cheek. We have time, Isla. All the time you need. The Alpha suite was stunning. A massive bedroom with a king-sized bed, an attached bathroom with a soaking tub, a sitting area, and a balcony overlooking the valley. Everything was luxurious, comfortable, and utterly foreign to Isla. This is where you'll stay, Connor said. The Alpha usually sleeps here too, but Kieran's giving you space. He'll be in the guest room down the hall if you need him. After Connor left, Isla stood in the center of the room, feeling lost. She'd spent 17 years in a basement with a cot. This room was bigger than the entire Omega quarters at Crimson Moon. She didn't belong here. A knock at the door made her jump. Sage entered carrying a tray of food. Thought you might be hungry. You didn't eat at Crimson Moon. Isla stared at the tray: fresh fruit, cheese, bread, and what looked like roasted chicken. Real food. Food that wasn't scraps or leftovers. I'm not supposed to. She couldn't finish the sentence. You're not an Omega here, Sage said gently, setting the tray on the table. You're the Luna. You eat at the Alpha's table. You eat first if you want. You eat until you're full. That doesn't feel right. I know. But it is right. Sage sat on the edge of the chair. Can I be honest with you? Isla nodded. The pack is going to struggle with this. Not because you're not worthy, you are. But because you're different from what they expected. Some will question whether an Omega can be Luna. Some will test you, try to undermine you. Then maybe Kieran should choose someone else. He can't. You're his mate. The goddess chose you for him specifically. Sage leaned forward. But here's what I think you're exactly what Kieran needs. He's strong, powerful, sometimes too rigid. You'll balance him. You'll help him see things from a different perspective. You'll make him better. I'm just an Omega. No. Sage's voice was firm. You're a survivor. You endured 17 years in a pack that abused you, and you're still standing. That takes incredible strength. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you that you're weak. After Sage left, Isla ate mechanically, barely tasting the food. Then she showered, washing away years of Crimson Moon, and changed into a soft nightgown that had been left for her. When she finally lay down in the enormous bed, she expected to fall asleep immediately. Instead, she stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. She was someone's mate. An Alpha's mate. She was supposed to be a Luna. It felt impossible. Like a dream that would shatter when she woke up. Around 2 a.m., a knock sounded at her door. Isla opened it to find Kieran standing there, looking sheepish. I can't sleep, he admitted. My wolf is going crazy being separated from our mate. I know you need space, but would it be okay if I just sat with you? I won't touch you, I just need to be near you. Isla understood completely. Her own wolf had been restless, unhappy with the distance between them. You can come in. Kieran entered and immediately settled in the chair by the window, deliberately putting distance between himself and the bed. Thank you. They sat in silence for a while. Then Isla spoke. Why me? What do you mean? You're a powerful Alpha. You could have anyone. Why would the goddess give you an Omega as a mate? Kieran was quiet for a long moment. Can I tell you something? About why I've waited so long to find my mate? Isla nodded. My father was Alpha before me. He was powerful, respected, feared. He mated my mother because she came from a strong bloodline, because the alliance helped the pack. There was no love there. No partnership. She was miserable, trapped in a bond with a man who saw her as a political tool. That's awful. It is. And I swore I'd never do that. I swore I'd wait for my true mate, no matter how long it took. Because I'd rather be alone than trap someone in a loveless bond. He looked at her with those silver eyes. And then I walked into that dining room and smelled you, and everything made sense. But I don't understand what I bring to this bond. You're strong, powerful, everything an Alpha should be. You're compassionate. You're resilient. You survived 17 years of abuse and didn't let it break you. You still have kindness in your eyes, gentleness in your heart. Kieran's voice was soft. I need that, Isla. I need someone who will remind me that power isn't everything. That strength sometimes looks like endurance. That leading isn't just about dominance, but about protection and care. You think I can teach you that? I think you've been demonstrating it your entire life. You just didn't know anyone was watching. He stood. Try to sleep. Tomorrow will be challenging, but I'll be with you every step. As he turned to leave, Isla called out, Kieran? Yes. Will you stay? Not to do anything. Just to be close. My wolf is restless too. The smile that lit his face was radiant. I'd like that very much. He settled back in the chair and Isla burrowed into the blankets. With her mate nearby, her wolf finally settled, purring contentedly. For the first time in 17 years, Isla felt safe. Chapter 3. The Luna Emerges. The pack meeting the next evening was exactly as intimidating as Isla had feared. The entire Northern Ridge pack, nearly 300 wolves, gathered in the massive assembly hall. Isla stood on the stage beside Kieran, wearing a simple but elegant dress that Sage had helped her choose. She felt every eye on her, heard every whisper. That's the Omega? She's so small. How can she possibly be Luna? Kieran's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Breathe, he murmured. I've got you. He stepped forward, his alpha presence commanding instant silence. Pack, as you know, I've found my mate. Isla was born Omega, raised in the Crimson Moon Pack under difficult circumstances. The Moon Goddess chose her for me, and I have accepted her as my mate and your Luna. A wolf in the front row stood. Alpha, with all respect, how can an Omega lead this pack? She has no training, no experience, no rank. She will learn. I will teach her, and you will all support her. Kieran's voice was firm. But I think you're underestimating what she brings to this pack. Isla has survived things that would break most wolves. She has compassion, insight, and a perspective that this pack needs. She's weak, another wolf called out. Her wolf is barely present. How can a weak Luna inspire strength in the pack? Isla felt the words like physical blows. They were saying everything she'd feared, confirming every doubt she had about herself. But then Kieran did something unexpected. He turned to her and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Isla, what is your wolf saying right now? She was confused by the question, but answered honestly. She's scared, overwhelmed, but also angry that these wolves are judging us without knowing us. Good. Hold on to that anger. He turned back to the pack. My mate's wolf has been suppressed for 17 years. In the pack she came from, showing strength meant punishment. Showing emotion meant abuse. She learned to make herself small, invisible, silent, because that's how she survived. He paused, letting that sink in. But she's not in that pack anymore. She's here with us, where she will be safe to discover who she truly is. And I think when she does, when her wolf is finally free to emerge without fear of punishment, you'll all see what I already know, that the Moon Goddess knew exactly what she was doing when she chose Isla for me. An older she-wolf stood. Isla recognized her as Elder Mara, one of the pack's council members. Alpha Kieran, I mean no disrespect to your mate. But the role of Luna requires certain skills. Protocol, diplomacy, leadership. Can she truly fulfill these duties? Yes, Kieran said without hesitation. She can and she will. But she needs time, training, and support. I'm asking the pack to give her that. And what does she ask of us? Elder Mara looked directly at Isla. Child, what do you want from this pack? Every eye turned to Isla. Kieran squeezed her hand encouragingly. This was her moment. She could stay silent, invisible as she'd been taught. Or she could speak her truth. Isla took a shaky breath and stepped forward. I'm terrified, she admitted. You're right that I don't know how to be Luna. I don't know protocol or diplomacy or how to lead. I spent 17 years being told I was worthless, that my only value was in silent service. She paused, gathering courage. But I'm also tired of being afraid. Tired of making myself small. The Moon Goddess chose me as Kieran's mate, and I have to believe she had a reason. Isla looked around the room, meeting the eyes of her new pack. What I want from you is a chance. A chance to learn, to grow, to become the Luna you deserve. I won't be like other Lunas. I'll never have the confidence that comes from being born into power. But maybe that's okay. Maybe this pack needs a Luna who understands what it's like to be overlooked, underestimated, hurt. Her voice grew stronger. Maybe I can help the wolves in this pack who feel invisible. Maybe I can create spaces where the quiet ones, the scared ones, the ones who don't fit the mold, maybe they'll have someone who sees them. She looked at Kieran, then back at the pack. I'm asking for time and patience. In return, I promise to give everything I have to this pack. To protect it, serve it, and love it with everything I am. Silence fell. Then Elder Mara stood and bowed her head, a sign of respect. I accept your promise, Luna. And I pledge my support in your training. One by one, other wolves stood and bowed. Not all of them. There were still skeptics, still doubters. But enough that Isla felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. After the meeting, Kieran pulled her into a private alcove, his hands cupping her face. You were incredible. I was terrified. I know. But you spoke anyway. That's courage, Isla. He kissed her forehead gently. I'm so proud of you. There are still wolves who don't accept me. There will always be doubters. But you're winning them over, one heart at a time. He smiled. Ready for the next challenge? There's more. Pack dinner. As Luna, you'll sit at my right hand. It's tradition. Isla's stomach clenched. Sitting at the head table. Eating with the Alpha. Being visible. Everything she'd been trained never to do. I can do this, she said, trying to convince herself. I know you can. And I'll be right there with you. The dining hall was enormous, with tables arranged in neat rows. The head table sat on a raised platform where everyone could see. As Isla took her seat beside Kieran, she felt hundreds of eyes on her. Breathe, Kieran murmured again. You belong here. The meal began, and Isla forced herself to eat even though her stomach was in knots. Wolves approached throughout dinner. Some to introduce themselves formally, some to pledge their support, some to subtly question her worthiness. She handled each interaction as best she could, drawing strength from Kieran's steady presence beside her. Then Marcus, one of the pack's senior warriors, approached. He was huge, intimidating, with scars that spoke of countless battles. Luna, he said formally. I have a question. Of course. What would you do if the pack was attacked? If you had to defend our territory? It was a test. Everyone in the hall went quiet, waiting for her answer. Isla could have deflected, could have said she'd rely on the warriors. But she remembered her promise, to be honest, to be real. I would fight, she said quietly. Maybe not on the front lines like trained warriors. Maybe my wolf is smaller, weaker. But I would defend this pack with everything I have. Because it's my pack now. My family. And you don't abandon family, no matter how scared you are. Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real, genuine smile. Good answer, Luna. Welcome to Northern Ridge. He bowed and returned to his table. Around the hall, Isla saw more wolves nodding, their expressions softening. She was winning them over. Slowly, but surely. That night, back in the Alpha suite, Isla collapsed on the bed, exhausted. Kieran sat beside her, gently removing her shoes. How are you feeling? Like I ran a marathon. Is it always this intense? Being Luna? Sometimes. But you'll get used to it. He massaged her feet gently, and Isla nearly moaned at how good it felt. You did beautifully today. I'm still scared I'll mess up. That'll embarrass you or the pack. Then you'll learn from it and do better next time. That's all any of us can do. Kieran looked at her seriously. Isla, I need you to understand something. I don't expect you to be perfect. I don't expect you to transform overnight into some ideal Luna. I just need you to be yourself, honest, kind, brave in your own way. That's enough. You're enough. Tears spilled down Isla's cheeks. No one's ever said that to me before. Then I'll say it every day until you believe it. He wiped her tears gently. You're enough, Isla. Exactly as you are. She launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. Kieran caught her easily, holding her close as she cried. 17 years of pain, fear, and loneliness finally finding release. I've got you, he murmured. You're safe now. You're home. And for the first time in her life, Isla believed it. Chapter 4. Challenges. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Elder Mara took charge of Isla's training, teaching her pack protocols, diplomatic etiquette, and the complex web of relationships between different packs. Sage trained her in self-defense, helping her build physical strength and confidence. "Your wolf may be small," Sage said during one session, "but size isn't everything. Speed, strategy, and determination can overcome raw power." Connor taught her about pack politics and territory management. "As Luna, you'll be involved in major decisions," he explained. "Kieran will value your input, so you need to understand the complexities." But the most important lessons came from the pack members themselves. Isla started spending time in different areas of the territory. She visited the nursery, where young pups were cared for, and found herself naturally connecting with the caretakers and children. She sat with the elderly wolves, listening to their stories and concerns. She worked alongside the Omegas. Yes, Northern Ridge had Omegas, but they were treated with respect and dignity, not as slaves. "We serve because we choose to," an Omega named Ben told her. "We're valued members of the pack. Our work matters." Isla made a mental note. When she had enough confidence, she wanted to establish better protections for Omegas across all packs. No wolf should endure what she had. Not everything was smooth. There were still pack members who questioned her, who whispered that she was too weak, too damaged, too Omega to be a proper Luna. The worst was Victoria, a powerful warrior she-wolf who had apparently been hoping to catch Kieran's eye. "It's pathetic," Victoria said loudly in the training yard one day, knowing Isla was within earshot. "Our Alpha deserves a strong mate, not some broken Omega who flinches at shadows." Isla tried to ignore it, but the words stung. That evening, she was quieter than usual during dinner. Kieran noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Isla." He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Tell me." She relayed what Victoria had said. Kieran's expression darkened. "She's right though," Isla added quickly. "I do flinch at shadows. I am broken." "Stop." Kieran's command was gentle but firm. "You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." "But I'm not strong like Victoria. I can't fight like her, can't command respect like her. Victoria is a good warrior, but she'd make a terrible Luna." "Do you know why?" When Isla shook her head, he continued. "Because she has no empathy, no compassion. She sees weakness as something to exploit, not protect. You see weakness and want to help. That's what makes you perfect for this role. You're biased. I'm your mate." "Of course I'm biased." He smiled. "But I'm also your alpha, and I know what this pack needs. It needs you, Isla. Your gentleness, your understanding, your ability to see the wolves others overlook." The next day, Isla was working in the pack gardens. She discovered a love for growing things when she heard crying. Following the sound, she found a young she-wolf, maybe 16, sobbing behind the greenhouse. "Hey," Isla approached gently. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "I'm sorry, Luna. I didn't mean to disturb you." "You're not disturbing me. I'm Isla." "What's your name?" "Riley." "Want to talk about it?" Riley hesitated, then the words poured out. "I'm supposed to start warrior training next week. All the other wolves my age are excited, but I'm terrified. I'm not strong or fast or brave. I'm going to fail and everyone will see how weak I am." Isla's heart ached with recognition. "Can I tell you a secret?" Riley nodded. "I feel that way every single day. Weak, not good enough, terrified of failing." Isla sat beside her. "But someone recently told me something important. Being scared doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. And choosing to try anyway, even when you're scared. That's what real courage is. But you're the Luna. You're supposed to be strong. I'm learning to be strong. It's a process. And some days are harder than others." Isla smiled. "How about this? We make a deal. You don't give up on warrior training, and I won't give up on being Luna. We'll both keep trying, even when we're scared. Deal?" Riley managed a small smile. "Deal." As Isla walked back to the pack house, she didn't notice Kieran watching from a window, pride evident on his face. That night, there was an emergency. Rogues had been spotted near the eastern border, a group of them, which was unusual. Kieran immediately mobilized warriors. "I want you to stay here," he told Isla. "It could be dangerous." "I'll stay," she promised. "But please be careful." He kissed her forehead. "Always." After he left, Isla tried to stay calm. But as hours passed with no word, her anxiety grew. Other pack members gathered in the main hall, equally worried. Elder Mara sat beside Isla. "First time? First time what?" "First time watching your mate go into potential danger." "Yes." "Does it get easier?" "No. But you learn to trust that he'll come home." Mara patted her hand. "He's a good alpha. He won't take unnecessary risks." But when a bloodied warrior stumbled into the hall 3 hours later, Isla's heart stopped. "Ambush," he gasped. "The rogues had a trap. The alpha is injured." Isla didn't wait to hear more. She ran, her wolf giving her speed she didn't know she possessed. She reached the medical wing just as they were bringing Kieran in. He was conscious, but bleeding from multiple wounds. When he saw her, he tried to smile. "It's not as bad as it looks. You're covered in blood." "Most of it's not mine." The pack doctor, Dr. Hayes, immediately took charge. "Luna, I need you to step back so I can work." But Isla couldn't move. Seeing Kieran hurt, vulnerable, made something inside her snap. Her wolf surged forward with a force she'd never felt before. Power flooded through her, not the overwhelming strength of an alpha, but something different. Something pure and bright. "Luna, your eyes," Dr. Hayes breathed. Isla looked down at her hands. They were glowing with soft golden light. Without thinking, she placed them on Kieran's worst wound. The light flowed from her into him, and she watched in amazement as the wound began to heal. Not completely, but enough to stop the bleeding, to close the worst of the damage. "What?" Kieran stared at her in wonder. "I don't know," Isla whispered. But her wolf knew. "Healer." She was a healer. "Incredible," Dr. Hayes murmured. "I've heard of healing wolves, but I've never seen one." Isla healed the worst of Kieran's injuries, then collapsed from exhaustion. When she woke, she was in their bed, and Kieran was sitting beside her, bandaged but alive. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Tired." "You?" "Better, thanks to you." He brushed hair from her face. "A healer. My Omega mate is a healer. Is that okay?" "It's perfect. It explains so much, why your wolf was always suppressed, why you survived things that would have broken others. Healers are rare, precious. Of course the goddess chose you as my mate. I don't understand. Healers balance alphas. We're all about strength, dominance, power. Healers remind us that protection and care are just as important. You're not weak, Isla. You're exactly what you're supposed to be." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I was broken. You were suppressed. Kept small because someone was afraid of what you could become." Kieran kissed her gently. "But you're free now. And I can't wait to see you shine." Chapter 5, Coming Home. Word of Isla's healing abilities spread quickly through the pack. Over the next few days, wolves who'd been skeptical suddenly sought her out. Those who'd questioned her worth now looked at her with respect. "A healing Luna," Marcus said during training one day. "Northern Ridge is blessed." But Isla barely heard the praise. She was consumed with worry about Kieran, who'd been in meetings constantly since the rogue attack. They weren't ordinary rogues, he told her one evening. They were organized, well-trained. Someone sent them. "Who?" "I have a suspicion, but I need proof." His jaw clenched. "The Crimson Moon Pack has been making moves against several northern packs. I think they're trying to destabilize the region." Isla's stomach dropped. "You think Alpha Gerald sent the rogues?" "I think he's angry that I claimed you. Angry that I exposed his abuse. And angry that he lost the alliance he was trying to force." "This is my fault." "No." Kieran pulled her close. "This is his fault for being a petty, cruel alpha who treats pack members like possessions. You did nothing wrong." A few days later, a formal message arrived. The Council of Alphas was convening to address tensions between packs. Both Kieran and Gerald were required to attend. "I want you to come with me," Kieran told Isla. To the council? But I'm not, I'm just. You're my Luna. My mate. You belong at my side. He cupped her face. Besides, your testimony about the Crimson Moon Pack's treatment of Omegas could be crucial. The council needs to hear what you endured. The council meeting was held in neutral territory, a massive lodge that served as the northern region's political center. Alphas from a dozen packs gathered, along with their Lunas and Betas. Isla felt every eye on her as she entered beside Kieran. She heard the whispers. That's the Omega who became Luna? I heard she's a healer. Kieran Steele's mate. Who would have thought? Gerald was there with Catherine, both glaring at Isla with barely concealed hatred. Victoria was also present as part of Crimson Moon's delegation, looking smug. The council elder, a formidable she-wolf named Helena, called the meeting to order. We're here to address growing tensions in the northern region. Specifically, allegations that the Crimson Moon Pack has been hiring rogues to attack neighboring territories. Gerald stood. That's a baseless accusation. We've done no such thing. Then explain why 3 captured rogues have all confessed to being paid by a Crimson Moon contact, Kieran said coldly. They're lying to save themselves. Or you're lying to save your reputation. Kieran's eyes flashed silver. But that's not the only issue. I'm formally accusing the Crimson Moon Pack of Omega abuse. The room erupted in murmurs. That's ridiculous. Catherine shrieked. We've always treated our Omegas fairly. Really? Kieran gestured to Isla. My mate would beg to differ. Isla, will you tell the council about your time with Crimson Moon? All eyes turned to Isla. She stood on shaking legs, her voice barely a whisper at first. I lived with the Crimson Moon Pack for 17 years. I slept in a basement room with no windows. I ate scraps. I worked from dawn until late at night with no rest. And if I made a mistake or was too slow or showed any emotion. She pulled up her sleeve, showing the faint scars that still remained. I was punished. The room fell silent. Elder Helena leaned forward. What kind of punishments? Physical abuse. Starvation. Isolation. Being told repeatedly that I was worthless, that my only value was in service. Isla's voice grew stronger. I was taught to be invisible. To never speak unless spoken to endure anything without complaint because Omegas had no rights, no voice, no value. She's exaggerating, Gerald snarled. We gave her shelter, food. You gave her trauma. Kieran's voice cracked like a whip. You systematically broke down a child and turned her into a slave. That's not pack care, that's abuse. Other packs do the same. That doesn't make it right. Elder Helena's voice rang with authority. If what Isla says is true, the Crimson Moon Pack has violated fundamental pack laws about the treatment of all members. It is true, a quiet voice spoke from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Thomas, the elderly Omega from Crimson Moon, standing with several other wolves. We've come to testify, Thomas said. All of us Omegas from Crimson Moon. We've endured the same abuse Isla described. Worse, in some cases. One by one, they came forward and told their stories. The council listened in growing horror. When they finished, Elder Helena's face was like stone. Alpha Gerald, these are serious accusations. They're lies from disgruntled Omegas. Are we lying about the rogues too? One of the captured rogues was brought in shackled. Because I can describe in detail how your beta paid us to attack Northern Ridge. How he specifically told us to target the Alpha. Gerald's face went white. The council deliberated for an hour. When they returned, Elder Helena's expression was grave. The council finds Alpha Gerald of Crimson Moon guilty of Omega abuse, conspiracy to attack a neighboring pack, and violation of interpack treaties. As punishment, you are stripped of your Alpha title. Crimson Moon Pack will be placed under council supervision until a new Alpha can be appointed. Gerald roared in fury, his wolf rising. But he was outnumbered, surrounded by stronger Alphas who quickly subdued him. As he was taken away, Catherine screamed at Isla. This is your fault. You destroyed our pack. No, Isla said quietly. You destroyed it yourselves. I just finally had the courage to speak the truth. After the council meeting, Kieran pulled Isla into a private room. Are you okay? I think so. It's just surreal. 17 years of abuse, and it's over. Just like that. It's over because you were brave enough to speak up. Because you gave other wolves the courage to do the same. He kissed her softly. I'm so proud of you. What happens to the Crimson Moon Omegas now? Any who want to leave will be helped to find new packs. Those who want to stay can, but under new leadership that will treat them properly. Kieran smiled. Thomas asked if he could come to Northern Ridge. I said yes, if that's okay with you. More than okay. Isla thought of the elderly wolf who'd been one of her only friends. He deserves a real home. That night, they returned to Northern Ridge to a hero's welcome. The pack had heard what happened at the council, how their Luna had stood up to her abusers and helped bring justice. 3 cheers for Luna Isla, someone shouted. The pack erupted in howls and cheers. Isla felt overwhelmed by the love and acceptance. Later, in their suite, Kieran held her close. How does it feel to be home? Home, Isla repeated. I never had a real home before. Never had a place where I belonged. You belong here. With me, with this pack. You always have. He kissed her deeply. I love you, Isla. My strong, brave, beautiful mate. I love you too. Isla smiled. You know, when I marked you. When you accidentally grabbed a stranger in a hotel hallway? Yes, that. I thought I was marking the wrong person. I thought I'd ruined everything. And now? Now I know the moon goddess knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't just give me a mate. She gave me a home, a purpose, a chance to heal. Isla cupped his face. She gave me you. Their kiss was long and deep, full of promise and passion. The mate bond sang between them, complete and perfect. Ready to truly claim this bond? Kieran asked against her lips. Yes, Isla breathed. I'm ready. As Kieran marked her, completing their bond fully, Isla felt the last piece of herself click into place. She wasn't broken. She wasn't worthless. She was loved, valued, cherished. She was home. 1 year later, the Northern Ridge pack gathered for a celebration. Not just any celebration, the first annual Omega Rights Summit, hosted by Luna Isla. Packs from across the Northern Territories had sent representatives. Omegas who'd never had a voice now stood together, sharing their experiences and demanding change. For too long, Omegas have been treated as lesser. Isla addressed the crowd, her voice confident and strong. But we are wolves. We are pack. We deserve respect, protection, and dignity. The crowd erupted in cheers. Kieran watched from the side, pride radiating from every pore. His mate, his strong, incredible mate, had transformed not just herself but an entire system. Already, 6 packs had signed the Omega Protection Treaty she'd drafted. More would follow. Your Luna is remarkable, Elder Helena said, standing beside him. She is, Kieran agreed. Though she'd probably argue she's just doing what's right. Remarkable wolves often don't see their own worth. Lucky for her, she has an alpha who reminds her daily. After the summit, Kieran found Isla in their suite, exhausted but glowing with satisfaction. You did it, he said, pulling her into his arms. We did it. I couldn't have done any of this without you. She kissed him softly. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Always. He touched her stomach gently. How are you feeling? Isla smiled, placing her hand over his. Good. Tired, but good. They'd found out a week ago Isla was pregnant. Their first pup was due in 6 months. Our child is going to have the most incredible mother, Kieran said softly. And the most amazing father. Isla leaned into his embrace. You know, sometimes I still can't believe this is real. That I went from being an Omega servant to being Luna, to having a mate who loves me, to carrying our child. Believe it. You earned every bit of this, Isla. You fought for it, survived for it, became strong enough to claim it. I had help. She looked up at him with love shining in her eyes. I had you. As they stood together, wrapped in each other's arms, Isla thought back to that terrified girl in a basement room. The one who thought she had no value, no future, no hope. That girl had no idea what was coming. No idea that a visiting alpha would smell his mate and stop the entire pack. No idea that her life was about to transform completely. No idea that she'd find not just a mate, but a home. Not just love, but purpose. Not just survival, but joy. Isla had served them as an Omega for years. But in the end, she didn't just survive. She thrived. And that made all the difference. The end. From invisible Omega to powerful Luna, Isla's journey reminds us that our circumstances don't define our worth. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from the gentlest hearts, and the most powerful leaders are those who remember what it's like to have no power at all.